$20 billion. That is roughly how much the makers of ChatGPT lost last year. Not spent, lost, on revenue of about $13 billion. OpenAI, the most famous name in this whole boom, spent about $1.60 for every single dollar it took in. And here is the part that should stop you. While that was happening, the stock market hit record highs. The same companies pouring money into AI reported their best profits ever, and a lot of them laid people off in the same breath. So which is it? Is AI a money-printing machine or a money bonfire? The honest answer is weirder than either, because there is a quiet accounting move holding this whole thing together. One famous investor calls it, quote, one of the more common frauds of the modern era. Stay for that part. It rearranges everything. No doom, no hype. Let's follow the money. OpenAI's losses are not a rounding error. About $21 billion in a single year, and it is not planning to slow down. It is planning to spend more. Late last year, its chief executive, Sam Altman, casually mentioned that the company has signed deals worth about $1.4 trillion. Trillion, with a T, for computers and data centers over the next several years. Now hold that against its revenue, about $20 billion a year. So it is promised to spend roughly 70 times what it currently earns. That is not a typo. And that gap between what AI costs and what it earns is not closing. It is getting wider. So the obvious question is, if the numbers are this ugly, why is everybody so calm? Here is where it gets clever. Meet depreciation. I know, stay with me, because this boring word is the secret engine of the entire AI stock market. When a company buys something expensive that lasts years, say a delivery truck, it does not count the whole cost on day one. It spreads that cost across the truck's life. 5-year truck, 1/5 of the cost each year. That yearly slice is depreciation. Now here is the trick. The longer you say the truck will last, the smaller each yearly slice becomes. And a smaller cost means a bigger reported profit. Same truck, same money, just a rosier number on the page. So what did the big tech companies do with their AI chips? They stretched the timeline. Quietly, over a few years, they decided their computers last about 6 years instead of 3. And that is a problem. The chips at the heart of AI, the ones made by NVIDIA, get replaced about every 2 years. A faster one comes out, and the old one is suddenly slow, hot, and expensive to run. Everyone in the industry knows this. So you have companies claiming a 6-year life for a machine the whole world treats like it is old in 2. This is what set off Michael Burry. If the name rings a bell, he is the investor who bet against the housing market before the 2008 crash. The movie guy, the one who was right when everyone laughed. And late last year, he came back to say this out loud. His words, understating depreciation by pretending your equipment lasts longer, quote, artificially boosts earnings, one of the more common frauds of the modern era. He said the big AI companies will hide about $176 billion of costs this way over 3 years. By his math, one company's profits could be overstated by nearly 27%. 27%. On paper, you see a healthy, thriving giant. Adjust for the trick, and a big chunk of that glow just vanishes. Now, before you move all your money into a mattress, I promise no hype, and that includes no doom. Burry is not automatically right, and we will get to why. But first, follow the money one step further. It gets stranger. Look at how this whole thing is being paid for. NVIDIA, the company selling the chips, agreed to invest up to $100 billion into OpenAI. And what does OpenAI do with money? It buys chips from NVIDIA. So the money leaves NVIDIA and comes right back to NVIDIA, now labeled as sales. If that makes you squint, you are not alone. We have seen this movie before. Back in the late 90s, a telecom giant called Lucent started lending money to its own customers so they could afford to buy Lucent's equipment. It looked like booming demand. It was really just the same dollars running in a circle. When the music stopped, so did Lucent. And there is one more layer. A lot of the debt for these giant data centers is being kept off the books entirely. Take Meta. It wanted to build a data center so big it has a name, Hyperion. Instead of borrowing the $27 billion itself, it set up a separate company with an outside investment firm, put the debt over there, and just rinsed the building back. The result? Tens of billions in debt that does not show up cleanly on Meta's own balance sheet. And Meta is not alone. One ratings agency counted about $662 billion of these data center commitments sitting just off the official books of the 5 biggest players. So, record losses, an accounting trick to soften them, money running in circles, debt hidden in the garage, and through all of it, the checks keep getting bigger. Which raises the real question of this video. Who is actually paying for it? Some of it is you, or your neighbor, in the form of a layoff. Here is the mechanism, and it is simpler than it sounds. Paying employees is an everyday running cost. Building data centers is a giant one-time investment. So when a company cuts staff, its running costs drop and its profit looks healthier right now. And that healthier-looking profit is exactly what it uses to reassure nervous investors while it funnels tens of billions into AI. In plain terms, the layoff pays for the build-out, or at least for the story that keeps Wall Street calm about it. And you can watch it happen. Take Microsoft. Last year, it made more money than almost any software company in history, more than $100 billion in profit, a record. In that same year, it cut more than 15,000 jobs. Its chief executive, Satya Nadella, wrote a memo about the strangeness of it. The company is thriving, he said, growth pointing up and to the right. And in the next breath, quote, "We are investing more in capital spending than ever before." He called it the enigma of success. Record profits, record spending, and pink slips all at once. Then there's Salesforce. Its boss put it more bluntly than anyone. He said he cut his customer support team from 9,000 people down to about 5,000 because, his words, "I need less heads." The AI, he said, does the rest. So case closed? The robots took the jobs to fund themselves? Not so fast. This is the channel that deflates both sides, remember? So here is the honest catch. When Meta cut around 8,000 jobs, one analyst pointed out something awkward. Those cuts saved maybe a couple $1 billion. Meta is spending around $135 billion on AI this year. The savings barely make a dent. So the layoff was not really about the money. It was a signal to investors. See, we are being disciplined, while the real spending roars on elsewhere. And when Amazon cut 14,000 corporate jobs, its own chief executive went out of his way to say it was, quote, not really financially driven and not even really AI driven. He blamed company culture, too many layers of management. So the neat story, they fired you to pay for the robot, is too neat. In truth, only a small slice of last year's layoffs even mentioned AI. A lot of it was just companies that hired too many people during the pandemic, now quietly correcting, wearing a more flattering label. Which brings us to the fair question. Is Michael Burry just right? Is this all a house of cards? Here is why I would not bet the farm on the doom either. First, Burry is famous for being right once, spectacularly, in 2008. But since then, he has called crash after crash that never came. In 2023, he simply tweeted, "Sell." The market went up about 20%. Being early, over and over, looks a lot like being wrong. Second, the companies pushing back have a point. NVIDIA says its older chips keep working for years, quietly doing simpler tasks, while the new ones handle the hard stuff. And funny enough, Amazon recently went the other way and said some of its gear wears out faster than it thought, the opposite of the trick Burry describes. And third, the biggest thing the doomers miss. Even if a fortune gets torched here, the stuff that gets built does not vanish. Remember Lucent from earlier? That whole telecom era laid thousands of miles of internet cable, then went bankrupt and wiped out its investors. A disaster. But the cable stayed in the ground. A few years later, it became the cheap backbone for YouTube, streaming, the modern internet. The railroad barons did the same a century before. Overbuilt, went bust, left behind a country stitched together by rail. So AI might genuinely be a bubble and a real lasting technology. Both. At once. The money can be wasted for the people who spent it, and the data centers can still power the next 20 years. As the head of the biggest bank in America put it recently, AI is real, but some of this money is definitely going to be wasted. So what does this mean for you, specifically? Here is the one practical thing to take away. You are probably invested in this, whether you realize it or not. Those 7 giant tech companies now make up about a third of the entire S&P 500. So if you have a retirement account or an index fund or a basic pension, a third of it is, quietly, this exact bet. You did not choose the AI trade. You were just in it. That does not mean panic. It means know what you own. When you hear the market is at all-time highs, what that increasingly means is AI is at all-time highs, dragging everything else up with it. If it stumbles, your calm little index fund feels it too. So, is big tech firing people to pay for AI that loses money? Kind of. The losses are real. The accounting is generous. The money moves in circles. And the layoffs do help keep the whole beautiful, terrifying machine humming. But it is not a simple scam, and it is not a guaranteed collapse. It is the biggest bet in business history, being made in real time, partly funded by this quarter's job cuts, and partly hidden in next decade's math. The question was never really, is AI real? It is. The question is, who is holding the check when the music slows down? And right now, a little piece of that check has your name on it. If you want the next giant AI story taken apart like this, calmly, with the receipts, no panic and no cheerleading, hit subscribe. That is the whole job of this channel. AI explained without the hype, so you see how the machine actually works before the headlines tell you how to feel. I'll see you in the next one.